office of President of the United States.
How do you tell the story of a presidency? How do you tell the story so far? The story is, in part, but inescapably, the story of a man, which leads inescapably to the fact of who he is. The great mystery of any presidency is that the sovereign people of these United States choose a leader, and then only afterwards, in the day by day, do they find out who that person really is. History reveals this. History throws you what it throws you, and you never know what's coming.
The peaceful transfer of authority is rare in history, yet common in our country. With a simple oath, we affirm old traditions and make new beginnings. As I begin, I thank President Clinton for his service to our nation. And I thank Vice President Gore for a contest conducted with spirit and ended with grace. I am honored and humbled to stand here where so many of America's leaders have come before me, and so many will follow. We have a place, all of us, in a long story, a story we continue, but whose end we will not see. It is the story of a new world that became a friend and liberator of the old. The story of a slave-holding society that became a servant of freedom. The story of a power that went into the world to protect but not possess, to defend but not to conquer. It is the American story, a story of flawed and fallible people united across the generations by grand and enduring ideals. The grandest of these ideals is an unfolding American promise that everyone belongs, that everyone deserves a chance, that no insignificant person was ever born. Americans are called to enact this promise in our lives and in our laws. And though our nation has sometimes halted and sometimes delayed, we must follow no other course. Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea. Now it is a seed upon the wind, taking root in many nations. Our democratic faith is more than the creed of our country. It is the inborn hope of our humanity, an ideal we carry but do not own, a trust we bear and pass along. And even after nearly 225 years, we have a long way yet to travel. While many of our citizens prosper, others doubt the promise, even the justice of our own country. The ambitions of some Americans are limited by failing schools and hidden prejudice and the circumstances of their birth. And sometimes our differences run so deep, it seems we share a continent, but not a country. We do not accept this, and we will not allow it. Our unity, our union, is the serious work of leaders and citizens in every generation. And this is my solemn pledge. I will work to build a single nation of justice and opportunity.
Ten years ago today, President George W. Bush, or I should say, George W. Bush was sworn in as the 43rd President of the United States. America was a country in a time of relative peace and economic prosperity. 9 months into his term, George W. Bush faced the worst terrorist attack in American history, the worst attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor, and the worst civilian attack in the history of this country. Followed by that was an economic downturn. But George W. Bush managed to lead in very challenging times by implementing policies that kept the United States safe, liberated Iraqis, invested in trying to prevent disease and poverty worldwide, and reforming education so minorities and the poor could have equal opportunities, and tax relief that led to 4 years, or more than 4 years, of economic growth. Despite certain mistakes, George W. Bush proved to the nation that he was a man of political courage, compassion, and of sincerity. Led this nation in very challenging times, and even though he made mistakes, he upheld the oath that he took on January the 20th, 2001. Changing circumstances affected what he had originally intended to do for the country. But as he said in his inaugural address in 2001, he pledged to create a land of opportunity. And on the issue of education, he did just that. And for over 4 years, he promoted economic growth. President's policies do have some effect on the economy. Congress's policies also have effect on the economy. And there's no doubt that the Bush administration and Democrats in Congress made mistakes that led to the economic downturn of 2008. But it wasn't just, but it was not, the fault was not that 100% of the president or the Congress. There were a lot of factors. But when we look back on President Bush, we will see a steady leader who defended America and sought to create equal opportunity for all of her people.